Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic 90s nerds to my channel, Slime and Slashers. Yep, where we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers and all kinds of stuff in between. And today is kind of one of those 90s themed days because we'll be talking about Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. You don't want to hear it. It's bad. It's so bad. Anyway, that is from 1996. That was the year that Hunchback was released. And the reason I decided to talk about it today is because yesterday, June 19th, was the 25th anniversary of the world premiere of that movie. And funnily enough, the world premiere took place here in my hometown of New Orleans. And yes, I actually went to the world premiere back in 1996 when I was just 7 years old. So I was there in person for that world premiere. It was a lot of fun. I don't have a lot of memories from it except for, weirdly enough, the car ride to the world premiere. And so that was kind of neat that I got to go, because apparently I looked up an article from one of the New Orleans newspapers, and it said that there was 65,000 tickets, which sounds like quite a lot, but it was actually, the tickets were given out like a lottery style. And so basically it was random, and people from all across the world came to New Orleans for this premiere. So it wasn't just New Orleans people. So you would think, oh yeah, you live in New Orleans, of course you went to the world premiere. No, it wasn't just as easy as that. It really depended on if you had this ticket that was basically decided by a lottery. Now, my aunt and my mom and my cousin Blake went with me, so I don't know exactly if, I know it wasn't my mom who got the ticket, so it must have been my Aunt Jody. I don't know how she got them, if it was like through I don't know how the contest was done, like through a grocery store, through a magazine, maybe like some businesses were giving some out, and the business got theirs from Disney. I don't know. We'll see. But, we won't see, but maybe I'll ask my aunt. I maybe should have done that before the stream, but then we would actually see if she had an answer to the question. We'll see. I'll have to ask her. All right, guys, we've got Nails in the chat. Nails! It's been so long since I talked to you. I'm so happy to see you. And Rob! Nails and Rob, such a great pair. Thank you both so much for being here. Rob says, of all the hunchbacks in the world, Notre Dame's Hunchback is definitely his favorite. I think that's a great choice, Rob. You can't go wrong with the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because I think he's a good one. Actually, he's very sweet in the movie. In the book, it's quite different. That's no surprise, though. I've said this in previous videos. Disney changed the story, the source story, for a lot of their movies. That's not really unusual, though. Lots of movies change things from the source material. So it's not like Disney was alone in, kind of messing with the story it's based on. But actually, I actually think Frollo, from what I've read, is a little bit darker even than the Frollo in the actual story, in the villain in the story. Apparently, Disney's Frollo went really hardcore with his evilness, and after I rewatched it yesterday, because I did decide, hey, I know I actually saw it this day 25 years ago, let me rewatch it on the same exact day to be thematic before I talk about it. It must have been at least 15 years since I've seen The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So yesterday, as I was watching, I was like, man, this is a dark movie, one. Two, it's got a lot of sexual undertones for being a kid's movie, because a big part of the movie is how Frollo essentially lusts for Esmeralda, which is the main female character. She's really the main female protagonist because she's a good person, whereas Frollo's the antagonist. Another protagonist in the movie is, of course, the Hunchback, Quasimodo. And I really like Quasimodo's character here. I'll get into some specifics, some things I looked up on IMDb in a little while, but while we wait for a few more people to arrive, let's just do some 90s themed stuff. Since we're in the year 1996, we've taken a little time warp back to that time. Let's look at some 90s little show and tell I have here. Alright, firstly, and I also have some general, I think I've got one 80s piece of show and tell. Alright, so I am wearing some McDonald's little chicken nugget Halloween earrings, and these were given away in Happy Meals during the 90s. I believe it was the 90s. I know I actually have all of mine still. I'm sure my mom is the one who actually went and got the toys for me and made sure that I have all of them. You could barely see it. It's a little out of focus, but on that back little shelf there's more of my... But yes, as you could see, so I'm wearing the earrings, And I've got, I know this is hard to see. This is not like my camera, my phone camera. This is my laptop camera, so things are a little darker and harder to see, but yes. Oh, look at him. Look at his little crazy eyes. Ah. Anyway, yes, very cool. So from the 90s, we've got Horror Gardener here. Thank you so much. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. All right, guys, so as you can see, before I take this off, you can find me on Twitter and social media. I'm also on Instagram, and I post a lot of vintage horror paperback pictures on Instagram. So you can find me there at Superkickinit, SuperKickingit. Like I said, Instagram, Twitter, and also Twitch. My name is Superkickinit on there. You could find me. All right, so you could find me all those places. I'm going to take the key off now so we have some more room to do some show and tell because it's taking up a lot of the screen here. All right, let's get this little thing off. Lots of things to move around here. All right, there we go. Now we've got the whole screen to work with, not just like the top corner. All right, so I just showed you guys my earrings and the awesome little chicken nugget for those just joining us, like Dave Pizeski. Hi, Dave. Let's look at some book mail that I just got in the other day. Yes, I try not to order books online, but lately I have been failing. I have been doing terribly. So copyright on this is 1992. It's a Point book, Point horror, R.L. Stine's Beach House, and I just read his book Beach Party, and it was glorious, so teenage trashy. It was wonderful. Just mindless fun. So if you go into these novels thinking they're going to be something more like really great literature or, I don't know, something really eloquent and highbrow, it's not that, and it's not meant to be that. So if you're going to go in with that mindset, you're going to come out disappointed. But if you're going to go in with more of a nostalgic tilt and you're like, hey, I just want something fun and easy and something that I could just relax and sit back and have like a little comforting read, and also a thematic read because they're summer reads, obviously. Beach House, you think of summer. My coughing fits always begin when I do live videos. Why? I don't know. It was the singing that I did. You guys missed the singing if you're just joining now. I badly sung, not really, it was more like hummed, the beginning of Hunchback. The Bells of Notre Dame, which I'll have more of later. All right, one last show and tell before we get into the movie. Like I said, I just want to kill some time while more people have a chance to see I'm live. This is The Lifeguard, and this is another Point title, and I'm sure this one is also from the 90s, if not the late 80s, 1988. So, very close to the year I was born, 1 year before. As you could see, it's very beachy as well. That's the theme I'm going with some of these books I've ordered, or else I would have just waited to find them in person, but because I was like, I wanted something summery, I wanted to read more Point anyway, I said, okay, I'm gonna order these. They were super cheap, so I said, why not? And I got Beach House and The Lifeguard, and I'm very happy with it, so woohoo! Alright, that's some show and tell there, and one piece of 80s show and tell that I'd love to show you. Actually, no, it's the 90s. I was wrong. So this is from 1993. And it was published by Tor, and I just got this in. This is nothing to do really with, 90s Disney, but I just, like I said, killing time. This is Bring on the Night. I just wanted to show you a cool vintage horror paperback cover, and the cool part is really the inside. Look at that freaking step back art, man. Amazing. So yes, he's there with the closed door. You open it up, that's the inside of the door. Closed door. Open door. I love it. It's amazing. It's awesome. I was so pumped when I got it, and it's in perfect condition. My books are never like this. I usually, like I said, try to find stuff in person. This one was cheap, and I bought it alongside other things, so I said, why not just add it to the order? So yes, for once, the spine looks great. All of my in-store purchases, the spines look like trash. People who I see online, like Donnie Goodman, for instance, he's got a great YouTube channel, check him out. He finds great spines. Cameron Chaney, he finds way better spines than what I find in the wild. I don't know how they're finding these great-looking spines. I'm like, well, I buy them anyway, even though the spines are terrible, but I'm just like, I want to take what I can get right now because I am a new collector and I'm building up my collection still, so I'm not trying to be too picky, although I would prefer them in nice condition. But yeah, I'm not very picky because, like I said, growing the collection. You gotta start somewhere, right, guys? So hopefully if you guys have been enjoying my previous videos, they've all been kind of bookish lately, especially I've been doing a lot of book hauls with vintage horror books like the one I just showed you. And again, it's kind of me showing you guys my journey of collecting because I'm a new paperback book collector. However, I'm an old old school, long-time collector of other things, which includes 90s memorabilia, 90s merch. I keep a lot of my childhood 90s things, so although I'm just collecting horror paperbacks from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I've been a long-time collector of other things from especially the 90s. So it's not like I'm just like getting into collecting. I'm a very addictive collector in terms of like when I find something I love, I'm like, I need everything of this thing. So for instance, like my Nickelodeon wall, you can't see it, but I've got a whole bunch of 90s Nick stuff. That's one of my collection obsessions. My poster collection, I usually change this poster around all the time, but I've got posters all around. I love like artwork posters. I get a lot of them off of Etsy. I've got a lot of them from this horror convention I went to a long time ago. Now, God, it's got to be like at least 10 years almost. Not exactly 10, maybe like 8 years. But yes, I got a lot of my posters from there. So like I kind of collect like horror posters and stuff like that. I got a Goosebumps collection back there that I've had for a while. Can never point the right way. Point correctly. There you go. All right, guys, let's get into the movie now. Wow, this is interesting. Before we jump in, I just want to catch up on the chat real quick. Horror Gardener says he just read his first Goosebumps at age 41. It was fun. Have Point babysitter books to read next. I actually also have some Point babysitter books. Yeah, Babysitter 1 and 2. I have it on my shelf back there. So yeah, I would love to get to those as well. I've heard they're great. And yes, I actually have been collecting Goosebumps for my whole, childhood, but I didn't really read them. So now, just like you, Horror Gardener, I'm just starting to actually read them because I didn't really read as a kid. That's why I'm collecting books now, too. It's not only like I discovered that, oh, they look cool. No, I actually discovered a love of reading about a year and a half ago, maybe even less than that. And so I've really gone down the rabbit hole. And luckily, like, in my very beginnings of discovering that I love to read, I found Grady Hendrix's and Will Erickson's Paperbacks from Hell book. And that's what started the old school paperback horror obsession. So yeah, it's like I probably wouldn't have gone down that route had I not read Grady Hendrix's book, and, also found Will Erickson, who's very knowledgeable as well. All right, we've got Batmobile. That's a great screen name who's joining us in the chat. Welcome, welcome. They're asking me what I use to edit my videos. I use Final Cut Pro X, and that's like the version of Final Cut that I use. And it is good program to use, but difficult at sometimes, especially in my last video, which if you guys haven't seen it, it's a awesome movie analysis chat with my great friend Kat. She's wonderful. Her and I talked about all kinds of zombie movies, but there was an editing mistake in there, and it's because I was editing it like 1 a.m. in the morning, and sometimes, it's very hard. There's a thing that's supposed to basically snap your background, it's supposed to snap 2 levels of your editing together. Well, I tried to snap the background and the photo together, but it must have become a frame off, and so you could see the background come in a frame early, and then the picture stay up a frame after the background leaves, and that bothers me. That bothers me so much. I swear I checked through the graphics. It bothers me. But anyway, it's a good program for the most part. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I don't often get asked editing questions, so I'm big into editing. I used to work at a TV station. I kind of dabbled in editing there, but I wasn't like the main editor. I was like an assistant editor there. I was really more of an associate producer, but yes. I really taught myself how to edit though, although I did it at work. I taught myself to edit when I started my YouTube channel doing pro wrestling themed videos. So yes, I use Final Cut Pro. I got it a long time ago from a friend who had a copy of the software. And I just recently updated it. It's a good program, but sometimes it's slow and annoying, and there are features I wish were better. At work, I edited with Adobe Premiere, which I don't like. I don't like it nearly as much as Final Cut. So if I had to choose between the two, because I have edited with each, I'd say Final Cut, but I've got a lot of shortcuts and templates, and so I don't do a lot from scratch. I've got a lot of cheat templates, so those are easy to throw in. So yeah, with the templates, that makes it easier. So that makes me biased towards Final Cut Pro because all the templates and all the, little easy setups, I don't even know what you want to call them. I've got lots of background, stuff that I have bought over the years that are for Final Cut Pro. So I do prefer that. That goes into my reasoning. All right. So, let us dig into the movie now. It's been a few minutes. I feel like people are in the chat if they're going to be here. Thank you all so very much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Very happy you're with me. Okay. Nails is like, there's not much Kelsi can't do. Nuh-uh, Nails. Be quiet, you. I love you. You're the best, Nails. You always make me feel so inspired and happy and very confident, which I am not in real life. So thank you, Nails. You're so sweet. All right, so as I was saying in the beginning, in the intro, we're talking Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1996. The world premiere, as I stated, happened 25 years ago as of yesterday. So June 19th, 1996. I, like I said, went to the premiere, and one last show and tell, which is the button I actually got from the world premiere, which I still have. This is from when I was a kid, didn't buy it, just received it back in the day. Let me give you a little close-up of this. I'm dropping things, as you can see my computer shaking. I just had coffee, so my hands are a little shaky here. Sorry, guys. All right, as you can see, it says Festival of Fun, world premiere at the Superdome, New Orleans, June 19th, 1996. And you could see they're kind of having a parade, and there's the New Orleans cityscape. It's almost like a New Orleans street here. Behind, you could see the architecture behind. See, that's kind of like classic balcony architecture for New Orleans. But yeah, they're all having, I'm sorry, this is going to give people like spasms. They're all having fun like it's a big parade. And it's kind of appropriate because as you watch the movie, the Festival of Fools, which is going on in the movie, Quasimodo's stuck up in his tower. He wants to go and participate in the festival. That festival kind of reminds me a little bit, not very much, but a tiny bit of a Mardi Gras parade. And that's no real surprise as, you know, New Orleans is a mixture of a lot of different cultures, a lot of different backgrounds. And so we've got a lot of French influence. Obviously, the Hunchback of Notre Dame takes place in Paris, France. So we've got a lot of French influence. So it would make sense that there's some similarities there. I think it's a great place that they chose to have the world premiere. Like I said, if you have to go into the United States, a great place with French influence is definitely New Orleans. Totally appropriate. The architecture, too, is kind of unique and beautiful, and obviously the flippin' architecture in the Hunchback of Notre Dame is also beautiful, so, and amazing. And the landscaping in the animated movie itself is just superb. It's so well done. It's like the animation style, incredible. And we'll get to the music as well, because I do enjoy that. And I also have some behind-the-scenes info. And of course, now I'm just realizing I left my notes that I took during the movie in the other room. Maybe I'll text Paul and ask him to bring them to me. All right, so the music, and we're talking about the instrumental part of the music, was composed by Alan Menken. He's done a lot of Disney musical scores. So he actually worked a lot with Howard Ashman, who was the lyricist for The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. Unfortunately, Howard Ashman died of AIDS before Beauty and the Beast was completed and released. He did get to see everyone's reaction when they got a standing ovation. Beauty and the Beast got a standing ovation before it was really finished. It got a screening in New York. And all the animators went, they saw that they got a standing ovation. They went to the hospital to visit Howard Ashman and told him, hey man, you know, the movie's well received, we got a standing ovation, and he passed away shortly after that screening. Very sad. Howard Ashman's a wonderful lyricist. Unfortunately, he did not do the lyrics for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but Alan Menken, who worked with Howard Ashman on other Disney films, did do the music. So, although his lyricist wasn't the same, Alan Menken was still involved in movies going forward for Disney, and he's done a lot even since The Hunchback. He's a great, great composer. And so in terms of the music, before I get into the ratings, I want to say that, now, I don't think The Hunchback of Notre Dame has the best score overall and the best music and song lyrics overall out of any Disney movie. You know, when I think of the best music, I think of movies like Beauty and the Beast. I think of movies like, even Pocahontas, I think has a better, well-rounded overall musical soundtrack. But I think what sets Hunchback of Notre Dame apart from all the other Disney movies is I feel like no other animated Disney movie has an epic of a song as The Bells of Notre Dame. So The Bells of Notre Dame is the song that you basically open the movie with. It's half spoken, half music and sung. It is so powerful. I mean, it's literally insane, the song. And also, another epic song in the movie Hunchback of Notre Dame is the song Hellfire, sung by Frollo, when he's really being tempted by Esmeralda, and he decides, she either will choose me or I'm gonna burn down Paris. You know, basically, he's letting his lust and greed and just bad elements of himself take over. And so he's not a good guy, even though he pretends to be a good and righteous guy and a very proud guy, but he is not a good guy. He's a terrible guy. He's one of the worst Disney villains out there. And I've got a little tidbit about that later. But yes, so although I don't think Hunchback has the best soundtrack, I do think it has two of the most epic Disney animated songs ever featured in any animated movie. I mean, when you hear the song, like, and I always, so my friend Burke and my friend Teresa both love this movie, and when I go on mini road trips with my friend Burke, we always, not always, but a lot of times we'll have different soundtracks, and sometimes we'll put in the Hunchback soundtrack, and we basically only listen to the Bells of Notre Dame. Like I said, it's the opening song. And so the best part is, like, when we get to the part where they say the bells, bells, bells. Anyway, so I always do it in a really exaggerated way. I sing along with it, and it makes them laugh every time. And, like, Teresa does the same thing, my friend Teresa. So, sing the bells, 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 the bells of Notre Dame. And that's when they go, ah, ah. I already did that part earlier. So if you missed it, you should go back and watch it, because it's terrible. If you want to, plug your ears, that's okay, too. Then don't go back if it's, like, terrible. So yes, I love the Bells of Notre Dame song. I think it's the best song in the movie. Second to that, I would say Hellfire. Other than that, like, the Festival of Fools is okay. It's upbeat. It reminds me of a party song. I don't like the Gargoyles song at all, which happens later in the movie. Another criticism is the Gargoyles, as characters, or I should say are the Gargoyles as characters. I don't really like them too much. We've got Philip Sanders walking into the chat right now. Hey Philip, welcome, good morning. Glad you're here. We were just talking about the music of Hunchback. It is great, but there are better soundtracks. Like Little Mermaid knocks my socks off as like a whole, but there's not a song in there that's as epic as the Bells of Notre Dame or the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. And I love Beauty and the Beast. I mean, Beauty and the Beast I would say is my favorite, because it's got a lot of nostalgia for me. It's got a lot of personal, personal reasons I like it. I'm biased towards it a little bit. It's one of the first movies I actually saw in the movie theater. It was that. In the same day, I saw Beauty and the Beast and The Great Mouse Detective. I don't know how they were showing at the same time, but because they weren't released the same exact year. But somehow, in the same day, my aunt took me to see The Great Mouse Detective, which was technically the first movie I ever saw in the theater, and then second was Beauty and the Beast, which is the one we wanted to see first, but it was sold out, so we did a double feature. And that was my first experience at the movie theater at like 5 years old. So although I'm a new book collector, I'm a longtime movie lover. And I'm a new book lover, but like a longtime movie lover. So yeah, I love books now, but I didn't back as a kid, but I always loved movies. So that comes across, I think I'm a little more knowledgeable about movies. And that's just because it's something that I've really been into my entire life. Another thing I'm really into is animation, especially traditional animation. And what I mean by traditional is it's not really done with a computer. So when you're watching, there might be some backgrounds that have been enhanced, especially when you get into the mid-90s to late 90s, they started to use a lot of computer for their background stuff and for different things. Like in Mulan, they used computer to help boost the animation for the huge avalanche battle scene too, where there's like a ton of army guys coming down the snow-filled hill. That was really, really enhanced with the help of computer animation. Whereas when you look at earlier Disney films, it's all hand-drawn, obviously, especially when you go back into like the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, and before as well. I'm just a big fan of that traditional look because it blows my mind that what you're seeing on the screen came from somebody's hand. Literally, it just blows my mind. Like, if I could just obtain a skill by just wishing for it, it would be... I would wish for the skill of animation, to be able to draw and to be an animator. I would love to do that. I have such respect for people who can do that and who have done that throughout history because it's just something I really enjoy. My dad's a big cartoon person, a big animation person. He likes animation a lot too. He still watches animation to this day, even though he's older. I still watch animation to this day. And I love going back and watching these old Disney movies from my childhood because sometimes things age out, like some of the gargoyle jokes. Very amateur, very, kind of bathroom humor-ish. Like, I know there's this one part, and I love Jason Alexander, but did he need to be a voice of a gargoyle in the movie? No. I mean, Seinfeld's one of my favorite shows of all time, but did I really like Jason Alexander and all the other gargoyles? No. And I'm not trying to be mean, I just didn't like them. I'm sure as a kid I might have gotten a laugh out of them, but I think even as a kid I didn't like the gargoyles very much. I don't know why. CGI was probably used in Hunchback, but it wasn't fully animated that way, Dave. Like a lot of the characters and stuff, but it wasn't like completely CGI done. And really what you're talking about is computer animated. It's not, like, even if you look back at Great Mouse Detective, if you look back at Beauty and the Beast, there are parts, like I said, that are done with the computer. Like, for instance, in Beauty and the Beast, the castle ceiling when they're dancing, you know, when Belle's in her beautiful gold dress and Beast is bowing, and then they tilt up to the ceiling and you see like an angel. That was computer generated for sure. But no, I'm talking about the characters really are hand drawn. It's not completely like when you look at Frozen, that's completely computer animated. When you look at Toy Story, that's all done by the computer. Whereas in the 90s, they were still mixing a little computer, a little hand drawn. It wasn't all computer at all. So yeah, I'm sure CGI was used in Hunchback, but not fully. In fact, animators went to France to draw, and they actually went to Notre Dame to try to draw and capture the architecture on paper. So yeah, I'm sure there was computer stuff in there, and you could actually tell some stuff. But also there's some recycled things in Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like, for instance, you could they put in some little hidden stuff. Like, you could see Belle walking by on one of the city scenes when they're doing like a big pan. There's like Belle in one corner, which is so weird. And they also threw in an old guy who looks like the old guy that Jafar was disguised as. So that's kind of neat. Let me just ask Paul to bring in my notes, if that's okay, really fast. I'm so sorry. I grabbed so many things and I took new notes and I didn't grab my actual movie notes. So let me ask him. Sorry. All right. So for the ratings, before we get too far into the animation discussion, 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb, 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 87% of Google users like this movie. So more people like it than the critics liked it. And these ratings are as of today, so June 20th, 2021. So who knows what the ratings were by the actual critics who watched it as it came out back in 1996. I don't know. All right, so let's take a look in the chat real quick. Thank you. Thank you. He's tripping over things and then looking mad because the closet door is open and a mess.
The room's a mess.
The room's a mess, he says. Thank you, Paul. Anyway, so here are my notes that I took actually while watching the movie. So it says, epic opening song. Even Frollo's horse seems evil as hell. And that's true. So we've got Frollo's horse at the very beginning of the movie where he's chasing the gypsies, and one of the gypsies is Quasimodo's mother trying to hide him. And, yeah, he accidentally kills her. And then he's about to drown Quasimodo when the priest is like, oh, stop. You can't hide what you do from the eyes, the very eyes of Notre Dame. Anyway, so that's a whole big epic part right there. But yeah, the horse looks evil as hell. He's a completely black horse with like red eyes, and it almost looks like he's got a very pronounced like snout, and he just looks mean. He looks terrible. Dave says that Hunchback has some of the best animation. Can I speak French? No, but my grandparents, who I called Maman and Papa, my Maman is no longer around, unfortunately. She passed away quite a while ago. I loved her. She was one of my favorite people in the entire world. She's still like one of my heroes, one of my favorite people to have ever existed. She was so great. She spoke a version of French, so my family are Cajun French. So they grew up in kind of like the country area, so hours away from New Orleans. It's a place called Vacherie, and then also close by, more relatives live in a place called Thibodeau, and, you know, that's spelled very weird, because a lot of things here are spelled strange and pronounced strangely. A lot of French words and stuff. No, I cannot speak French, but my grandparents, Maman and Papa, spoke Cajun French. In fact, they spoke Cajun French at home before they learned English, and they learned English at school. So their family spoke Cajun French growing up, which is a little different from actual French, but my papa actually went over during one of the wars and did some translating because he could understand French, so he, you know, was translating for the Americans in the war, and he was translating French. So that's kind of cool that he did that. But again, really they spoke Cajun French, which has a lot of differences. I'm sure it has a lot of slang. But yes, I don't speak French, and I don't even speak Cajun French. I thought about taking French in high school so that I could understand what my grandparents would say when they wanted us to not hear, my cousins and I. When they wouldn't want us to hear things, they would speak in Cajun French back and forth, and we'd all laugh, be like, what are they saying? What are they saying? But yeah, here's one of the kind of Cajun French little, I guess you could call it, terms of endearment. So they'd be like, oh, how you doing, cher? So cher, like, I don't even know how you spell it, but like, so if I go to visit my mama and papa and my mom's relatives, they say things like that. They have an accent, a very heavy accent, and way more, like, because people say I have an accent, it's more than me. So they'd be like, oh, how you doing, cher? And stuff like that. So when you hear this fake, false New Orleans accent in movies, it's really more like what I just did than the thing that you hear, like, oh, how you doing? I don't even know how they do it in the movies. It's more like country the way, and they try to do it more like a Georgia accent. So like when you see in movies, I'm trying to think of a good example. I know in Candyman 2, which is set in New Orleans, they had some terrible phony accents. Oh, it was the worst. I was like, no, it's wrong. But when you look at movies, like I even think Candyman 2, they kind of do it like a Georgia Southern accent where it's totally different. I think there is a lot more French into the accent than like a place like Georgia, which is like more like Southern drawl. Now, I'm not saying that like the drawl doesn't exist here, and I'm not saying that it's all French influence and the language only has like French parts to it or sounds to it. There's a lot of other dialects that come into like New Orleans and make up us as a culture in general. Lots of different people melding. It's the melding pot. That's what all of America is, but especially New Orleans. You know, it's a port city and stuff. So, anyway, yes, I don't speak French, but my grandparents spoke Cajun French. So, kind of cool. Dave says he thinks he saw The Hunchback in the theater, but it was so long ago. I'm sure that was a fun experience. They set up really big screens at the Superdome for the world premiere. I do remember like a huge screen, but I read that there was more than one screen. So, yeah. I don't remember the multiple screens, though. All right. Nails is saying Paul should have brought me a beverage. I already have coffee and I also have water. So, my coffee is cold, though. All right, let's see what everyone else has to say. Philip says he saw Hunchback of Notre Dame at Disneyland when they used to do those live Hunchback shows. That's so cool. Then saw it in the theater a week or two later. That is awesome, Philip, that you actually got to see it at Disneyland. What a cool story. So again, like I saw it with like 65,000 other people. I'm sure it was rowdy. I remember the floor being sticky. I remember that. Neil says she bets seeing it live was awesome. It was awesome, and I'm sure Philip thinks it was awesome too, seeing it live. Philip says it was a live stunt show they used to do. Vaguely remember it, but he had everything except they didn't have the gargoyles for like the stunt show. That's so cool though. I'm sure they did flips when they were doing like the Festival of Fools. They probably did flips and stuff and, you know, carnival type things. All right. And Nails is making fun of all the accents I was doing, saying it sounds like an accent from a cartoon movie. Alright. Is Gambit from the X-Men a good accent? Not really. If I remember. I have to go back and listen to it again. It's been a long time since I saw anything X-Men related, even though the animated series was wonderful. Again, I'm into animation, so like Batman the Animated Series specifically is one of my favorite animated shows of all time. I have like the first 3 seasons on DVD, I believe. Definitely have the first 2. But after a while, it went downhill a little bit. But like Justice League, the animated series, amazing. Way better than like anything live action, in my opinion. Kevin Conroy, true Batman. Anyway, this is a whole tangent thing. Animation, but it's still related in a way, and it's still 90s, so that counts. Alright, let me grab something. I'm a mess today. It's early. I'm about to go bike riding and have beer after this, and that's gonna be even more, like, crazy. I'm gonna get even more nutty as the day goes on, because I'll be tipsy, I'm sure. And also tired and sweaty. We'll see. From the bike ride, because it's like kind of a long bike ride to get to the brewery. It's like biking from here, which is like a 20-minute drive to New Orleans, but we'd be biking almost like into like the New Orleans area a little bit. So that's kind of crazy that we're able to do that. There's like a trail. So we've done it before, but I hope I can make it, because I haven't ridden a bike that far, and like I think the last time we did it to this exact street where we saw the brewery was like 3 or 4 months ago, and I feel like I was in better shape then. We'll see. We'll see if I can make it. So back to my observations. Oh yeah, I love when he says, the priest's life, the priest says, you can, wait, or is it, I can't remember if this is Frollo who says it. No, it's the priest who says it. He tries to drown the baby, and the priest is like, you can lie to yourself and your minions, but you can't hide what you do from the eye. So I love how he uses the word your minions. Like, Frollo's got minions. He's so evil, he's got minions. And not the cute kind, like we know of the Minions movies. This is like despicable minions that he has. You can't get DUIs on a bike, Rob, so I'll be okay biking home, because we're biking there and back, so I'll be alright, but hopefully I can stay steady on my bike as I ride back. Alright, the eyes that the priest refers to, which are basically like all these statues. Of course, he's talking about metaphorical eyes, like, the eyes of God, also just like the eyes of all the saints, and religious eyes, I guess, religious figures' eyes. But as he says, the eyes, you can't hide what you do, we see all these shots of these creepy statues. And upon rewatching yesterday, I didn't remember how creepy these eyes really were, and scary, like downright scary. They're all really bug-eyed, all these statues. These are the creepiest statues I've ever seen. They're supposed to be comforting. Well, they're not. They're not comforting. Not at least in this aspect of the movie. They're staring at Frollo, but really the pacing of that part of the animation, the way they drew that part, with all the eyes kind of closing in on him and all the statues looking at him, and just the way they do these zooms and stuff and pans, really wonderfully done, honestly, in that very aspect. Like I said, you can't really find a more epic sequence than the opening of Hunchback, and that includes the song, that includes the whole sequence of animation that opens up the movie, where you've got the bells of Notre Dame as the song in the background. It's just done to perfection, and in fact, that is the best part of the movie. That, and I do believe Hellfire is like, just like it's the second best song, I do believe it's the second best animated sequence in the movie as well. Alright, so the cool thing is, so I do remember, so I believe Tarzan was released after Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm almost, I'm 99.99% certain it was released after, because it was one of my last Disney animated movies that I liked. And I did see Tarzan in the theater, but there's these scenes where Tarzan is kind of swinging around on ropes and sliding down tree trunks. And I know that they looked at footage of surfers and footage of skateboarders to draw Tarzan, but I wonder if they used footage of Quasimodo swinging in the Hunchback of Notre Dame on these bell ropes, to animate some of Tarzan, because there's this one scene where Quasi is swinging, and it just reminded me of Tarzan, almost like they used the same animation. And actually, Disney movies do this. It's called recycling animation, and you could also call it cycling. It's when they kind of repeat a sequence over and over again, so that's called cycling. But they take sometimes animated sequences from other movies, and they reanimate it like in the same way. It's basically like they're placing the new characters over the same old sequence, and they're just like reusing the same scene. And like a good, I believe a good example of that is Robin Hood, the animated Robin Hood, which is one of my favorite old school Disney animated movies. I believe they recycled animation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, when like Snow White's dancing and stuff. There's like this dancing scene in the forest where Maid Marian and Robin Hood are dancing along with a whole bunch of other people, and I believe they recycled Snow White and her dancing. I think it was Snow White. I know it was recycled, I just can't remember from which movie, but yeah. They do that. It's not an unusual thing, and a lot of time it's to save money and save time, and if the scene works, they're like, let me just like copy this over. I don't know the specifics of how it's done, but I know it happens, and I've watched behind the scenes features where they talk about that happening, and them, the animators, specifically doing that. So I wonder if they recycled Quasi swinging and kind of used it to have Tarzan swinging, but that could just be, very familiar, and I could just be wrong. Well, that's okay if I am. Alright, so also more things I said So one of the cringy parts, which I talked about bathroom humor, Jason Alexander as the gargoyle, pour the wine and cut the cheese, and then like there's the fart sound, whatever. As a kid, I'm sure I laughed a little, maybe. I don't know. What I remember more about this movie as a kid, we'll get to in a second, and it really stuck with me. But yeah, I don't like it now. I'm not sure how much I liked it back then, but you have to have these light moments in the movie, especially because this is one of the darkest Disney films of all time. It's so super dark. So yeah, we had to have something light. I'm not sure it worked with the gargoyles. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. Not my favorite. So, and then we've got Frollo saying, the world is cruel, the world is wicked. I'm like the only one you could trust in this whole city. I don't know. He's really manipulating Quasimodo here to make it seem like he's the only good person that is in Quasi's life, so Quasi will listen to him, etc., etc. But just that is a deep and powerful and dark sentiment to have in a kid's movie. The world is cruel, the world is wicked. Of course, we could fast forward to the end of the movie where the message is supposed to be not everyone is wicked. Like Esmeralda, she is beautiful, but she still befriends and loves Quasimodo and becomes his good pal. However, I've got mixed feelings about it all because there's also a romance angle that kind of clouds everything, that actually makes you feel like even more sad for Quasimodo. But in a way, it's supposed to not be about him getting the girl romantically. It's supposed to be about him like making friends and being accepted. And I did tear up at the end where a little girl comes up to Quasimodo, feels his face, and basically accepts him, flaws and all. And so Quasi, for the first time, doesn't really feel like a monster. It's implied. He doesn't say, I feel accepted, but you get the sense that he is happy and feeling like he finally can belong and can make friends. But again, there's like something that the movie leaves you with that you feel incomplete, and I think it's that he doesn't wind up with Esmeralda. I know he accepts it, the character accepts it in the movie that she likes, what's his name, Phoebus? Whatever the hell his name is. It's such a weird name. Phoebus, who is voiced by Kevin Kline, by the way. That's the main, hunk guy who's supposed to be the love interest of Esmeralda. Esmeralda, by the way, was voiced by Demi Moore. However, Demi Moore did not do the singing voice of Esmeralda. She's got one big slow song. I will admit I fast-forwarded the song yesterday. I didn't like it as a kid. I don't like it now. I'm not a big fan of slow songs unless it's a really great one like Part of Your World by Ariel. Of course, sung by Jodie Benson. I love Jodie Benson. Anyway, I didn't like Esmeralda's song very much. If you guys like it, it's perfectly okay to agree to disagree. It's a beautiful song. I'm just not into it. It's too slow and depressing. I'm like, fast forward it. Dave says the themes of bullying and alienation in this film, at least in the beginning, are so tough. And yes, Dave, you're bringing me to what I want to talk about, which is the hardest scene to watch in the movie. So fast forward a little bit to, right before we get to the Festival of Fools, we literally, get an implication that somebody is being lashed, and Phoebus is coming on to work for Frollo as his head of his guard, and we basically get the gist that his previous head of guard, Frollo, is having him punished and he's getting lashed. There's a guy with lashes. Frollo is talking to the guy about how to punish him. Really dark stuff, again, for a kid's movie. But I am of the belief that it's okay to have dark stuff in kids' movies. And in fact, I think it's something that we're missing now. I think everything's super light for kids now. I think movies like this are important. It didn't mess me up as a kid at all. And if you look back many years before at a movie like Fantasia, which we've got the whole sequence of Night at Bald Mountain where we have a literal demon and lots of other ghosts and demons dancing around. We've got naked dancing fairies and stuff. That stuff's harsh, but I watched it. Lots of people watched it. No one's messed up. And in fact, it kind of added to my love of horror. And I think it made me maybe more well-rounded as a person, being able to accept dark things. Dark things are in the world. Pardon me. As Frollo says, the world is cruel or the world is wicked. It's a sad sentiment, but it is true. It is honestly true. It exists. And we see that again. So, at the Festival of Fools, we get a whole bunch of crazy stuff happening. One of the things is Esmeralda is dancing, and it's super sexual. Her clothes are super thin. I couldn't believe how sexual this was when I rewatched it yesterday. As a kid, I guess it didn't bother me, but she's actually using a spear, almost like a stripper pole, the way she's dancing on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And of course, Frollo, this is his beginning of his obsession with her. She's almost like taunting him, and he can't take it, and that's one of the reasons why he becomes obsessed with her. But yeah, like, Frollo is such a bad dude. Like, oh god. And this just puts him over the top. He's like, I love her, but I hate her. Like, he doesn't love her, but, like, I'm obsessed with her. I must have her. I'm insane and mean and evil, and I cannot control myself, blah, blah, blah. So that's, like, the beginning of his obsession, I believe. Because I don't think he even saw her personally before that. Alright. So, also, here's another weird part of the whole thing. It's the Festival of Fools, and they're crowning the ugliest person in France, but really it's supposed to be like someone wearing an ugly mask. But Quasimodo gets crowned, and at first they think he's wearing a mask. They try to pull it off. It doesn't come off, and at first they're shocked, but then they're like, yeah, he's ugly, it's great, let's celebrate him, it's supposed to be an ugly person. This part is really weird. Like, how do you convey this to kids? Like, yes, it's okay to be ugly, but then a second later, the guards start to throw tomatoes at him. People seem shocked for a second, but then the audience and all the people of France start to throw things at him too. And then it goes a step further, and this is the hardest thing ever to watch. And I remember being, like, really shocked as a kid. This part really stuck with me, and it's one of the parts of the movie that I remember the most throughout the years. They tie him down with rope to this platform. They spin him around, and they start throwing things at him. They laugh at him. How can everyone there be so cruel? And then later at the end of the movie, they all accept him, but, like, if I was Quasi, I mean, hell, man, these people threw freaking food at me. These people were, like, so ready to alienate me, to make fun of me, to put me down. And yes, the theme is, like, redemption, forgiveness, acceptance, but I don't know, if I was Quasimodo, it'd be really hard to feel safe with these people. And yeah, like Dave's saying, that part really hurt. Like, yeah, it's so hard to watch, even as an adult now, him getting tied down. And Esmeralda comes up, and she shows kindness in uncutting him. And she even shows defiance, because Frollo is like, no, don't uncut him. He needs to learn his lesson. But she does it anyway, and then he starts to go after her after that, and things devolve after that. But, it's really hard to watch this, and the crowd afterwards, they still gasp and look at him like they're scared, even though they just saw one of the most beautiful people in the whole city freeing him. One of the people, somebody who a lot of people seem to look up to and like, in Esmeralda, even though she shows him kindness, it didn't change their feelings for Quasimodo at first. They still cowered at him. They still almost, like, laughed and scoffed at him as he's walking back into the bell tower. It's really hard to watch because, like, nobody but Esmeralda shows any humanity, as Nails is saying in the chat. Like, there's nobody there that's being nice besides Esmeralda. And I just can't fathom that that's how that they're painting the world to be. Because, yes, later we get the little girl being kind, but there's such a lack of humanity for a large chunk of the movie. And then you've got one of the, like, most evil Disney villains of all time as well, on top of the lack of humanity of the whole city. It's like, oh my god. And not only that, the gypsies are supposed to be somewhat good characters, but they're also not that nice. I mean, if you look at the Festival of Fools, the main jester guy is kind of nice, but kind of not nice. He's kind of making fun of Quasimodo. He's kind of singing and, you know, kind of being jestful about Quasimodo. So to me, it's hard to say that they're even good guys. So you're supposed to not want the gypsies to get stamped out, but they're not necessarily good, and they're ready to hang people at one point. Of course, they think that Quasi and Phoebus are tattletales and they're traitors and spies, so that's why they're about to hang them, but really they're helpful people. But yeah, they're ready to persecute people as well. But I don't know, it's a lot of mixed signals here, and that's like a criticism of the movie. But what I can't criticize is the animation, the beautiful animation, the epic songs. But yeah, and also there is a good overarching message. There's just problems along the way, though. You know, that's the thing. Yeah, I even wrote, like, first people look appalled at the throwing of the fruit and the tomatoes, but then they laugh, and then they participate in the bullying. It's horrible. Then we've got a theme of silence versus justice. Do you just be quiet and take things, or do you stand up for what you believe in? Because, you know, Frollo says silence, and Esmeralda says justice. So that's a whole big theme. I think that's underlying theme throughout the whole film. So yeah, this is where we get a little nod to Aladdin. So a guy at the festival gets broken out of a cage and he goes, I'm free. And he looks like Jafar disguised as an old man from Aladdin, which was released back in 1992. So 4 years before this movie in 1996. Frollo is so creepy when he sniffs Esmeralda's hair. He sniffs her hair and he's like, you can't hide here forever. Then he accuses her of clouding the mind with unholy thoughts, so he's blaming her for his sins and his bad thoughts. Ridiculous. But again, Frollo's supposed to be super evil. You're not supposed to root for him, and there's a reason for that, which I'll read in a minute. Hellfire lyrics are hardcore, I wrote as I was watching the movie. Also, there's some great animation here. Red, faceless, hooded creatures. Reminds you of cardinals, kind of, but with no faces. Fire in the shape of a woman tempting him. Obviously, it's Esmeralda in the flames. Be mine or you will burn. And he says this many times. She will be mine or she will burn. I will have her. I will burn all of Paris. It's insane. This man is insane. He is such a hardcore villain. It's crazy. There's epic shadows throughout the song, and then the final lyrics are just, literally insane. How much he wants her, and how he's willing to burn everything down to have her. That is how hardcore his lust is for her. And then also, fast forward a little bit later as he's trying to hunt for Esmeralda, he's literally about to burn a family alive. Literally, a baby and a kid in there. He doesn't even care. He literally doesn't care. He wants to make an example out of them. He is the worst Disney villain of all time. It's insane. Then there's the terrible gargoyle song, which is totally out of sorts in the movie. Again, I understand having to have some lightness for the kids, but it doesn't really flow with the rest of the movie. If you're gonna go dark, just go dark with a few fun characters. You don't have to have a fun, light song that really didn't match the rest of the film. So I didn't like the gargoyle song. And then also another sad thing is the song, it's all about Quasimodo getting his hopes up that Esmeralda will like him as a relationship. Be attracted to him, essentially. So to me, that gives mixed signals, and it makes the whole ending of the film very confusing for a young person. Are we supposed to be rooting for Quasi? Are we supposed to be rooting for Phoebus? Yes, they come to an acceptance at the end, but it really kind of gives the message that only pretty people can get the girl. I don't know, Quasi just gets the crowd, he just gets accepted by friends, and he gets accepted Esmeralda as a friend only, and that's the only way anybody who is not super handsome or super pretty can get the person they want. I don't know if I like that message. I feel like that's an undertone. As a kid, it was fine, but as I really look back at it, it's I kind of wish they wouldn't have even had the character of Phoebus. It just was confusing. She says she hoped that Frollo had an alibi for when Notre Dame really burned down, which is crazy that actually happened, and so sad because the architecture is just beautiful. I can't even believe that we're living in a world where that actually happened. But again, this movie was not too dark. People loved it. I was obsessed with Esmeralda after this came out. I had an Esmeralda towel that I got into a huge fight with my cousin Dana about. We both had an Esmeralda towel, and we were fighting about which one was which person's towel. I was like, this is my Esmeralda towel because it doesn't have a stain on it. And Dana was trying to take mine, and we were fighting about it. Anyway, I had Esmeralda shoes, Velcro shoes, back in first grade, I believe, or second grade. I don't know, whatever. I don't know how old, as a 7-year-old, what grade would I have been in? I don't know if it was first grade or not. But anyway, yeah, I had Esmeralda shoes at one point, I know. Alright. And I'm not trying to be too critical on the Hunchback of Notre Dame in terms of themes. It is a kid's movie, after all, and I do applaud Disney for going to dark places, because Disney movies now don't do that as much or as hardcore as you see in this movie. I mean, the sexual undertones here are crazy that they even exist. And it didn't mess me up, as a kid. But I will say a funny comment. As we were watching, Paul was in the room watching sports on his laptop, but every now and then he would look up, and like I could tell he was like kind of distracted by the movie. He was actually watching it a little bit, and he told me, he said, "How is this a kids movie?" He said that like 3 times during some scenes, like the fire scene where like Paris is burning. He's like, "How is this a kids movie?" So even he was like, "Whoa, this is a kids movie." But hell, I watched like Watership Down as a kid, so even though it's not a kids movie, like bunnies getting bled out all over the place and throats ripped out. Anyway, that's another story. We'll analyze that movie one day. I just think it's wrong for the gargoyles to get his hopes all up, and that confuses the kids in the audience, too. Also, at one point, they have, like, an Amadeus Mozart wig on Quasimodo, and it's funny because that's a little nod to the voice actor Tom Hulce, Hulse, or Hulse? You know I'm bad at pronunciation, but he voiced Quasimodo, but he also was the star of the movie Amadeus. He played Mozart. So kind of cool that, like, you know, they show this wig, which looks like a old school timey, like Amadeus type of wig, and it's kind of like a wink wink to the people who know who voiced Quasimodo. Also, they used, if you guys know Goofy, obviously Goofy as in like the character Goofy movie. He's got a very noticeable scream. The Goofy scream, you've heard it in some Disney films. Ho 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 Hawaii! When, like, Goofy is falling. They use that scream in The Hunchback when one of the guards is falling off the tower, when basically all of the surrounding area of Notre Dame is burning. We hear the Goofy scream. They put that in there. It's like a little wink, again, to people who like Disney and Disney movies. It doesn't exactly fit with people falling to their deaths, but it makes the battle scene a little bit lighter. So yes, ho 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 hoi! They're ridiculous. They actually have it. You can go back, and I guarantee you'll notice it once I pointed it out. Also, there's a Wizard of Oz reference where, the old lady gargoyle is saying, "Fly, my pretties," and she's getting her pigeons to join in on the attack. And basically, we've got like a spoof on when the witch from the Wizard of Oz says, "Fly, my pretties," to her flying monkeys. Alright, so let me just catch up on here, on the chat. Dave says, should I read Watership Down or watch it? I heard the book is great, but I do recommend watching the old school animated version. Don't watch the new Netflix version. I don't like the animation style at all. It's very computer, but it's not even like good computer generated animation. It's like really bad looking. But I would definitely suggest, especially like around Halloween time, because it is scary, watching Watership Down. In fact, like there's been Halloweens. I just rewatched it last year, so I can't watch it this year. But I think I watched it in September to kick off, like right before it was the first day of fall. I was like, let me like watch something that's like on the fence. Like it's not Halloweeny, obviously, but it is scary. So it was like not a horror movie, but I was like, it'll get me in the mood for like horror movies in like October time. So I watched it like right before October, and yeah, it's spooky, it's creepy, it's scary, it's bloody. For an animated movie. It's very bloody. So yeah, but I want to read the book as well, Dave. So I can't attest to how good the book is, but I know lots of people love the book. And rightfully so. It's a classic. Nail says, though, that she is highly terrified and emotionally scarred by Watership Down, and that I will recommend it, but she's like scarred by it. And Nails is right. Like as a kid, I could have easily been scarred by that movie, but I wasn't. I don't know. I was a messed up kid. I was like, yeah, like I used to love watching that movie as a kid. And I made my cousin Dana, who's 3 years younger than me, watch it with me. So yeah, she liked it too, but she was a little more scared of it than me, and she hates horror. So it's like right now, she wouldn't watch a horror movie. Also, Horror Gardener mentions Plague Dogs, who basically it's the same type of animated style as Watership Down, and Horror Gardener says watch it if you want a good cry. I have not seen Plague Dogs, but I want to see it, but I'm afraid to see it because yes, I heard it's very sad, very depressing, but same animated style, which I love the animated style of Watership Down. There's some stuff you could criticize about the style. They do cycle animation in that movie, but it's still, and there's some rough lines, but a really well done movie. Very historic in terms of animated movies, in my opinion. And also, another person who likes it, Guillermo del Toro, he praised it highly on the DVD Blu-ray edition of, it's like I think it's a DVD Blu-ray combo, but anyway, he praised it. It might not be, it's a Criterion collection, so it's just Blu-ray. Yeah, it's Blu-ray. Guillermo loved it, that movie. It was very influential on him as he was growing up, and yeah, he's really big into animation as well. All right, I know this is long, guys. I'm sorry. I've gone on so many tangents. I'm wrapping up. It's already at an hour. I know. I'm sorry. This is me. I can never just shut up. I'm such an ass. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully it's not too boring. Hopefully it's a little entertaining. I love you guys for watching. Thank you so much. I don't know how people who are going to watch this after the fact are going to feel. You know, these are so much less formal and so much less, obviously, edited. There's no editing at all, except for, like, the pictures and stuff I show, which I do have pictures. But, yeah, sorry, guys, that it's long and so rough, but that's what a live video is. But I appreciate you guys so much. All right, so there's this part where Frollo at the end says, "And he shall smite the wicked, and plunge them into the fiery pit." And he looks so evil as he says this. Like, he even has, like, yellow glowing eyes at one point. Like, it's insane how evil they made him. Like, it's insane, but it's great. He's a great villain. And again, I wrote, it's still sad, because Quasi winds up without the girl. Like, I wrote that at the end. And like I said, I cried because, you know, the little girl does accept Quasi and he goes off with the crowd. And then you've got them singing, you know, what makes a monster and what makes a man? Sing the bells, 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 bells. Anyway, I'm not going to do it again. But yeah, what makes a monster and what makes a man? That's a powerful statement there. That's powerful lyrics. And it kind of mirrors in the beginning where they say the same thing. You know, who is the monster and who is the man? Kind of, you know, basically saying, is it Quasimodo who's the monster? Or is it Frollo? But, you know, what makes a monster and what makes a man? And they say it again at the end. I love that. And yes, I cried yesterday at the end. When the little girl, I teared up. And I was like, oh my god. So yeah. And yeah, I say ridiculous way too much. The live videos, I say it even more. Because sometimes when I say it in my edited videos, like my book hauls and stuff, I'll try to cut out me saying ridiculous. Because it's just too much. Like, I say it way too much. It's like my little catchphrase, but it's not on purpose. I know I say it. I try to avoid it, but it happens. So yeah, Nails is now saying ridiculous in the chat. And she says she likes a good Kelsi tangent. Thank you, Nails. Quickly, as I mentioned, Jason Alexander is a voice of one of the gargoyles. I mentioned Demi Moore. Kevin Kline is the main hunk guy, Phoebus. I love Kevin Kline. He's the coolest pirate ever in the Pirates of Penzance. However, I didn't really like him as Phoebus too much. I don't know. Phoebus is just not my favorite guy from one of the Disney movies. Like, if you look at who is my favorite, like, I don't even care about Eric that much from Little Mermaid. I mean, he's okay. He's kind of daffy, like, I don't know. Eric's a little crazy. Of course I love Beast, but Beast is really angry for the majority of the movie until he starts to change. So at least there is a change in Beast. I like that he goes through a metamorphosis throughout the film, and so there's at least a little bit of glimmer there. But yeah, for the majority of the movie, he's kind of a jerk, but that's the point. He changes. So yeah, I like Beast a lot, I guess. I don't know who else I would like in terms of, like, a guy, like the love interest guy. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, like, Pocahontas in that film, that was played by Mel Gibson, the guy there. I don't know. John Smith. I don't know if I like him either. I don't know. I don't know who I like. They're more memorable princesses, really. As a kid, I was like, I love the princesses. Like, I wanted to be them, you know. Eric is pretty boring as princes go, Nail says. That is true. I'm losing my voice here. This is interesting. The voice of Frollo. It's voiced by Tony J. So Tony J, he also voiced a bad guy in Beauty and the Beast, but a very, very small role of a bad guy. And that is, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm not French, I am Cajun French, and I don't speak it, so this is why it's going to be butchered. Monsieur D'Arc, maybe that's it. Anyway, that guy is the head of the insane asylum. Can't speak. He's the head of the insane asylum. And so he's the guy who, you know, takes the coins from Gaston to take Belle's father into custody, to take him into the insane asylum. So he says, "You're despicable. I love it." So that is the voice of Frollo. Both voiced by Tony J. Pretty cool. And as soon as I read that, I was like, okay, yes, the voice of that guy from Beauty and the Beast, it connects with me to Frollo. You could definitely tell it's the same guy. And yes, they did say that it was on purpose that they had that old man that looked like Jafar, you know, in Hunchback, so, or disguised Jafar. Alright, so that's all for my notes there. I've got little bonus notes here, not many, very short. Alright, for the scene where Judge Frollo sings Hellfire and sees Esmeralda dancing in the fire before him, the MPAA insisted that Disney animators make Esmeralda's clothing more well-defined, as she seemed nude originally. But she's still very, kind of scantily clad, or the fire is scantily clad. And this is all from IMDb, by the way. So if you're wondering where I got this info, IMDb. Take it with a grain of salt. It could be correct. I think it's correct, but, just... It's not like it's like an authority type of thing from some kind of official thing, but it's IMDb. The song Hellfire is considered one of the darkest songs written for a Disney film and was nearly cut. I'm glad it wasn't cut because it's literally like one of the best scenes in the entire film. It's so crazy, but the animation is just out of this world. It's so powerful and well done. So I can't believe what it would be like without it. I can't even fathom it. So thank God it was not cut. The film, due to its dark and sexual themes, nearly became the third animated Disney feature film to receive a PG rating versus a G rating from the MPAA in the US since The Black Cauldron and then The Nightmare Before Christmas. So again, Nightmare Before Christmas, Black Cauldron were rated PG. Everything else was G. But looks like Hunchback squeaked by. I don't know how, because yes, tons of sexual themes there. And yet it still had a G rating. So the opening musical number, The Bells of Notre Dame, is, according to Alan Menken, who did the music score, his best opening number he has ever written. And I do agree with him, it's just such a killer opening. So just bombastic, fantastic. It's glorious. Really, you can't beat that opening number. There's better, like I said in the beginning, overall soundtracks, but you really can't beat that song in terms of setting the stage, being really just a great open in general. Frollo is considered one of the darkest and most evil Disney villains, even more so than his original counterpart in the novel. While Disney Studios purposefully meant for him to be as evil as possible in an attempt to avert the trope of evil is cool, common to many Disney villains. And that is true. If you look at Ursula, she's got a kind of a coolness to her. If you look at Hercules with Hades, he's kind of funny and cool. I'm trying to think of other ones too. I mean, even Captain Hook had a funniness to him. If you really go back, far, far back, you could even see that back then. But yeah, so Disney was trying to be the opposite and have him be not cool at all, totally hateable, totally loathable, and he is. So mission accomplished, Disney. So it was the last Disney animated film to use very mild bad language like the words hell and damn until Cars in 2006. So that's quite a gap. That's a 10-year gap. From 1996 to 2006, Disney didn't have as such harsh language as in this film. And then also, here we go, last little tidbit. To stay consistent to the architecture and the details of Notre Dame, animators spent several weeks in and around the actual cathedral, drawing and sketching. That's kind of cool. And you could see that really translates to the film. You could tell it's just beautifully done. Very accurate, just massive amounts of research went into this, and you could tell lots of care went into it. And I love that. Dave says he's glad that Hellfire wasn't cut, but he could see why it was almost cut. Yeah, me too. Let's take a look, and then we'll be done at these GIFs. Alright, this is from Hellfire. Look at this animated sequence here, as you can see on the screen. Powerful, epic. The fire is kind of almost engulfing him, going back into the fireplace, but first it doesn't even look like a fire. It looks like those hooded, religious creatures. Awesome, awesome scene. And again, here, look at the facial expressions of Frollo here. Look at those eyebrows, those eyes. You believe this is a real person with real emotions. And this really makes me think of the old school animators, Frank and Ollie. Frank and Ollie are two of the original 9 old men, they were called. And these are the original 9 animators who worked on the first animated movies of Disney. So we're talking about the classics, Snow White, Bambi, all of those old school movies. So Frank and Ollie really set the stage for drawing characters that showed emotion. And that include animal characters, not just human characters. They wrote a book called The Illusion of Life, which I own. It talks all about very in-depth ways of how to make an animated character show emotion emotion, have facial characteristics that are believable, and so on and so forth. So I really think that this is such a great style that really calls back to that classic Frank and Ali style where you've got the characters looking realistic, looking lifelike, looking very, very, like, not animated as in the sense of drawn, but animated as in, like, their facial expressions have a lot of character to them. Here's another great facial expression by, like, Frollo is so well designed. Like, his face is perfect for looking evil and angry and smug and scary. Look at this. Choose me or the fire. Like, look at this. I mean, he looks so evil here. The shadows, look at those shadows go across his face. All of this takes time and precision and animation. This is glorious work here. I'm sure some of the fire was done by computer, if I had to guess, because, you know, a lot of the stuff, like, elements are hard to draw, and by this time they were using a little bit of computer, and so I would guess that some of the fire might be computer generated. Here we've got the opening title, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Love the font here, love the bell swinging, and this is right after we get the climax of the bells, 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 bells that I've only sung 1,000 times in this stream alone. I'm sure you guys are like, shut up. Kelsi karaoke sucks, but I love the opening. This is a great title shot, title screen. Well done. Here we've got the end where finally Frollo gets his comeuppance. I love it. And we see him truly scared, maybe for the first time in his life. And we get a little glimpse. You could see the fiery flames behind him. It kind of mirrors what's going to happen to his soul. If we do believe in religion and God, we can assume he's going to hell. And we know he believes. He is supposed to be a religious man. And yes, here we've got him falling into literal flames where his soul is going to also fall into figurative, hellish flames as well. Or at least we assume. Here's another screenshot from the awesome scene, the Hellfire song scene. And we've got those hooded creatures that I mentioned. Here we have Quasimodo looking very sad. And of course, I think this GIF was edited poorly because we could see like a little time, like a little pausing feature at the end there. But none of the matter. I want you to look at Quasi's face here. That's the main point. Look at the emotion there. Again, we've got great illusion of life. We really feel like Quasimodo is a relatable, real-life person here. But it's a drawn character. So well done. I feel so badly for him here. He's just looking so heart-wrenched. And oh my god, it tugs at your heart in particular. So yeah, look at this animation. Just top-notch, grade A. Here we've got another beautiful animated sequence. Him splashing himself with water over the city, hanging over one of the little statues off the side of the church. Oh, good stuff. Again, more hateful-looking facial expressions from Frollo, but I love it. As his character would say in Beauty and the Beast, the guy, the head of the insane asylum, I love it, he says so evilly, as he's like looking all menacing with shadows. And you could actually kind of see his eyes look a lot like that Disney character. I wish I had a side-by-side comparison, but I didn't pull a shot of the Disney guy he voiced. Again, here we come back around to the beginning, and let's jump over to more, and then we'll be done. We've got the title poster of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, also the DVD cover. Beautiful stuff here. We could see the cathedral. We could see Esmeralda, the dumb old gargoyles who I don't particularly like, but it's okay if you guys like them. And we could see the city in the background. There we have another great shot where we could see more of the city, the river. Very lovely. Here's the Festival of Fools. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. Reminds me a lot of Mardi Gras, as I said. It's a big party. Really, it's only because it's a party in the street that it reminds me of Mardi Gras. There are no floats like we would have at Mardi Gras, but still gives me that vibe of a party thrown by the people. Here we've got a wonderful shot of the bell, and the bell looks like computer generated to me, which would make sense, because if you had the early 90s, late 80s, we had The Great Mouse Detective, which included a chase through a clock tower. So it had a lot of gears, and the gears were done by computer, so I wouldn't be surprised if these bells were computer generated. And look at Esmeralda looking up at the bell. Beautiful, beautiful stuff there. Another evil face with Frollo. He looks quite evil there, quite mad, very disappointed actually, but yeah, very dark behind him. Great animation. I know I'm going on about the animation, but really what shines even more than the story is the animation of this movie. It was one of the last truly beautiful Disney movies, in my opinion. I mean, I loved Mulan, I loved this one. I had lukewarm feelings about Tarzan, and after that, I kind of fell off of liking Disney as much. Because I was getting older, but also I feel like they were changing their style of the way they did their animated movies. This was, one of the later ones, one of the ones where it was about to peak off, drop off. Not peak off. They had peaked and they were dropping off, I should say. Here's a great, scene where he's trying to get the pigeon to fly away, the little birdie. You don't want to be cooped up here, which is kind of like an analogy for how he felt. He didn't want to be cooped up there anymore. Him hugging the gargoyles. Another shot of the scenery, beautiful stuff, birds flying around. Just marvelous. Him and Phoebus having an eye-to-eye. They don't like each other at first, but then they become friends. It's part of the arc of the story. And again, lastly, we've got Frollo reaching out to the fire. Part of that lovely scene, Hellfire scene, he's clutching Esmeralda's scarf, which he's kind of like smelling and being obsessed about. It's really kind of creepy. And then the next day, he looks all tired and his eyes are like glowing red. And Phoebus is like, is something wrong? And he's like, I had a little problem with the fireplace. Like, yeah, you were like singing to it, dude. But I don't understand how like singing to the fireplace can make somebody's eyes glow red. But apparently it did in this instance. And then finally, here's him pointing. I think this might be my last picture, but we'll see in a second. Him pointing evilly. Nope, there's one more. As I said, it's hard to feel completely bad for the gypsies because they kind of come off like a little bit mean and harsh, like at the Festival of Fools, where they do partake in throwing fruit and vegetables at Quasimodo. And here they almost literally kill 2 people. But again, they were afraid, so I do understand that. But this was a really cool part where they were dressed as skeletons, very neat. Oh, so it's not my last picture. I keep thinking it's the last picture. And here we have Esmeralda with her pet goat, which also the goat was a little bit of humor in the movie, but she also was obviously very attached to it. And oh yeah, this is lovely, lovely stuff. This looks like it's computer generated, but the lava and flames engulfing around the cathedral. And finally, as he is about to try to kill Esmeralda, we see his eyes glowing, but a second the tides turn and he kind of falls to his doom. But look how evil he looks there. I mean, nobody could look more evil than this. I really get a kind of a sense of Ursula here, actually, with his facial expression and color of his eyes. Ursula, of course, from The Little Mermaid. Dave says he looks demonic. Heck yeah, he looks demonic. Oh yeah, and so here's the guy from it's not from Aladdin, this is from Hunchback, but it's a throwback to Aladdin where Jafar was disguised as this guy. So yeah, as you can see, it's the exact same animation guy, like the same style as the old man. That's a little wink to Aladdin. And then more architecture. I guess I pulled more photos than I thought. But yeah, this is the statues and the cathedral. Lovely. And that's the last photo. Thanks guys so much for sticking with me. We're wrapping up here. I do want to address Horror Gardener said, your book club name survey is not working. That's because I actually closed that survey. I think I did officially close it. So my book club is going on. It's already started up. Some people here are in it, like Dave. I do have an open spot if anybody is looking to join the club. We are trying to be a little picky, so I would have to talk to you one-on-one. So if anyone's interested, it's a horror club. We sometimes will read thrillers, but I particularly want to focus on horror. We are about to have our June meeting, and we're about to pick our July read very soon. So yes, thanks for trying to vote, Horror Gardener, but yes, the poll is closed, and our official name is Chills, Thrills, and Kills. But we also have a little tagline of, oh, the horror. That was one of the choices, but it didn't win, but we still use it as like a tagline, kind of. Not really, like, it's not like we join up and say, oh, the horror, but like on the club, it's like the tagline of the club on Facebook. But yes, thank you for trying to vote nonetheless. And thanks, guys, so much for sticking with me. I know it's been long, like usual. That's me. That's my style. I love talking movies, I love talking 90s, so this was a blast for me. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for letting me relive something literally that I experienced 25 years ago. And I'd love to know what you guys thought of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. If you're watching this after I ended the live stream, leave a comment down below. All comments and any comments help so much with YouTube's crazy algorithms and analytics. So please leave a like, a comment, that helps a lot. And if you're not subscribed and you like 90s or you like horror, because I talk about both things and a lot of stuff in between too. because I like Star Trek. So that counts as talking sci-fi, but it also counts as like 80s. So I do talk 80s stuff. I love the Goonies. I love all kinds of 80s things like E.T. But yes, if you like any of that stuff, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you get notified whenever I go live. I talk all kinds of things. Lots of variety here. And I appreciate you all so much. Love hanging with you. Love talking with you in the chat. If I missed any of your comments, I apologize. It was not on purpose. And that'll do it for me. Till next time, guys, keep on killing it. Bye. Love you, Nails. Love you, Rob. Love you, Dave. Thank you all so very much. Really appreciate you guys sticking in for the long haul. And thank you, Horror Gardener. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, I believe it was the Batmobile. We had you. Thank you, Patrick. There's so many people in the chat. I don't want to forget. But thank you, everyone. See you later. Got to get my goodbye graphic up on here. And then I'm really signing off for real this time. All right, keep on killing it. Bye, guys.